Welcome to VyCast, where we bring a blend of knowledge, expertise, and fun to the world of finance. Stay tuned for our exciting episode packed with insights and practical tips that will help you achieve your financial goals.
This topic is so hot that it's the focus of two major films, The Beekeeper and Thelma. These movies show how scammers trick victims into giving up thousands, even millions of dollars. Now, in Hollywood, these scammers suffer a dramatic downfall, but in real life, the ending is usually bad for their victims. So what are the scams out there right now that we need to know about, and how can we make sure they don't get our money or our data? Joining us from the front line of fighting fraud is Stephanie Curtis, Senior Vice President of Operations and Fraud. Stephanie, we are so glad to have you here today on VyCast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So technology is always evolving, and it seems like as technology evolves, so do the bad actors and their approaches at different schemes and scams. So in your position, what are you seeing right now are the latest scams that are just either coming back, for a second round, or something that's super new that we all need to know about?
Yeah, so I'll definitely say the one that we see that is coming back around, and you could say enhanced, if you will, is the grandparent scheme, right? So you get a call, a grandparent would get a call and says, this is your grandchild and I can't make it home. I need money for gas immediately. And so they instill that sense of urgency in that grandparent. And so they feel like they need to take action quickly. But what technology has done with AI is now you have the ability to use the voice and also make it sound like that grandchild, right? So that depends on how many things you have on social media, what voice clips that they can get. But we have seen it now coming back with that extra enhancement of using AI for voice.
Yeah, in the movie Thelma, the grandson calls grandma, says, I've been arrested. A lawyer, you have to give this money to my attorney. And so there's both fear and the urgency. And then she calls the parents and they all get involved. And you could see how quickly that fear spreads throughout an entire family and how quickly they react to it.
And that is the tactic, right? We need you to act quickly or else something bad is going to happen.
Now, I have to ask, though, there are some AI, some fake, deep fakes you see, and it's so obvious that it's fake. Like, how are they getting past this? How are they really being so convincing?
I think it's when you're operating in that sense of fear and urgency, you're not paying attention to maybe the minor details, right? Because there's something that's bad that's going to happen and you just have to act right away. So it kind of blurs your judgment. And I think from the outside looking in, you could say, oh, that would never happen to me. But I think when you're in a state of panic, you may miss a lot of the signs that you would not normally miss.
Yeah, that adrenaline gets going. Sometimes you just don't even think clearly. What can you do to arm yourself, maybe protect yourself from that? Because I remember when little kids and they'd say, look, mommy's never going to send somebody to pick you up from school, right? There's going to be a code word. What about establishing some kind of code word in these emergency situations? Would that work here?
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly great way to protect yourself with your family members, right? You establish this code word and you tell them, hey, if you ever call me from a number I don't recognize and there is an urgent, any urgent matter, please use this code word that you've established with them. And I think that's especially important when you're getting called from a number that you don't know. But the other part of technology is that fraudsters now have the ability to spoof a number, right? And so you get a phone call and they can make enhancements to what that caller ID looks like for you to think that it could possibly be them or a business calling you that looks legitimate. And so you have to always kind of arm yourself and be ready to ask the right questions. And I think a code word is a great example of how you could do that with your family.
All right. So I know we've told people so many times, do not give your personal information out. Even don't answer a number that you don't know, but clearly people are still giving their information out. So what are a couple things that maybe we could do to arm ourselves that say, okay, like here's 3 things, right? And if I see like the first thing, I should be on guard. The second thing, I'm like, all right, it's not passing the sniff test. And by the third, it's like either hang up or like report this. So what can we do to kind of go in with our own armor, if you will?
Yeah, I think the first thing you can look out for is getting a call from a number that you don't know from somebody claiming to be somebody you know or do business with, or a governmental agency, right? So looking at that phone number that's coming in is really important. Are you expecting that call? Is that an unexpected call?
Number one,
right. And you can absolutely not answer any number that you don't know. And chances are, if it is a legitimate call, you're going to get a voicemail asking you to call back, which will give you the time to research that phone number to confirm if it's a valid call.
All right. So first, a number you don't know or an unexpected call, like
Right.
from Social Security or the IRS or something you're not expecting.
Exactly.
Okay. So number two that you should be on the lookout for
Is if they're asking you for information that they should already have, right? So if your financial institution, if VyStar is calling you, we are not going to be asking you for your online mobile banking username and password. We're not going to be asking for a full Social Security number or a full account number. Those are things that they have information to. And so if you're getting a request for any sensitive information, I think that is something that should definitely put you on heightened alert. And that does not have to be just your financial institution. That could be a call that you're getting from anywhere claiming to be the IRS, Social Security Administration, any government agency.
Okay. All right. Number three.
Hang up. So if you get a call and they are instructing you to do anything by instilling fear, a sense of urgency, asking you for information, hang up. If it's VyStar, if somebody calling claiming to be VyStar, hang up the phone and then call back to the number that is listed on our website, vystarcu.org. Call the number on the back of your debit card. Those are all trusted sources of our phone number. And so I would encourage everybody to do that, regardless of if it's VyStar, a financial institution, or a government agency. That is the best way you're going to be able to protect yourself.
But the key here is that they're asking you to do something quickly and they're putting some fear into you, like, oh, we're the IRS and you haven't paid your taxes and we're coming to get you unless you give us money.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, it can go as far as telling you, go take out $10,000 out of your account and put it in an envelope in your car and we're going to come by and pick it up. That is nothing that Social Security would do. That is nothing that the IRS would do, and definitely not anything your financial institution would do. And it can go further. Go into the branch, take out money, and if anybody asks you, lie. A government institution is not going to reach out to you and ask you to lie to your financial institution. Those are definitely red flags you should be looking out for.
And that's one thing that the VyStar member service representatives will ask if they see something that an unusual amount is being asked to withdraw. You know, they're being professional, but they're wanting to make sure that you are not being victimized by a scam.
Right, because sometimes they may not even realize that they are victims of a scam. And so I think part of our job as a financial institution is to protect them as well and educate them by having these conversations that we're having or having the conversations that we have in the branch.
And the scammers know that we'll ask. That people will ask, so they say to lie. So that's another trigger, right?
Exactly.
If they're asking me to lie, this is not legit. Or if they're asking you to go put it in a Bitcoin machine.
Exactly. Another example, or put it in the mail and send it to a random address that's not associated with the IRS or with any government agency or any financial institution that you know.
And I know a lot of folks out there are listening and watching and thinking, oh, those are so obvious, I wouldn't do that. But billions of dollars are being scammed out of people who are unfortunately falling victim to these.
Yeah. In 2023, the FTC reported $10 billion in fraud losses to consumers in the U.S., which went up 12% compared to the prior year. So this is definitely that we're seeing across the nation, not limited to financial institutions.
And it's not just, we don't want to pick on the elderly. It's not just the elderly who are being victimized.
Not at all. Anybody can. I mean, I think there's also the perception that I don't have a ton of money in my account. I live paycheck to paycheck. Nobody is going to scam me. There's different tactics for every group of our membership or consumers in the U.S., right? So if you don't have a high account balance or you feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck, well, they'll say, hey, here's this work from home job that I have for you. Go take this check, deposit it, and do X, Y, and Z. And whether you use the funds for yourself or you use the funds by going to purchase 20 gift cards that they told you, when that check returns, then your account is drawn negative and you have to repay that. So I think that is a perception sometimes that is inaccurate, that perhaps because you don't have a great amount of money in your account, you're not going to be targeted. but there are different tactics.
And it's unfortunate because so many times that $3,000 that someone got scammed out of is all the $3,000 they have. My mom has a rule. I'm not giving my money to anybody.
Right.
So good luck with that. So maybe at the end of the day, just say, I'm not giving my money to anybody.
Yep. Agreed.
That's how she safeguards herself. All right. So now that we've walked through kind of the sniff test, if you will, if one of these couple things occur, you've given people, hang up, go to your own institution, look up the website address yourself. We're going to run a little test here for folks. Okay. We're going to call it Find the Fraud. Okay. So the first example we're going to give everybody is you get a text message and there's been a shipping delay for an important package that you're waiting for. Where are we finding the fraud here? Is there fraud here?
Yes, Charlene, there is definitely fraud here. The first thing is the link in the message. So a lot of times those links in those message are used to either take you to a website that's going to ask you for personal information that could identify you or your financial institutions, and can even go as far as getting into your cell phone and gaining access to your
I've been hearing more
phone.
About that, getting control of your phone.
Yes. The other thing is that USPS is generally not going to text you an alert like that. And so looking at the salutations, how they address it, one, there's that sense of urgency we see. Again, we need you to act now. If not, you're not going to get this package. And so if you got something like that, go to USPS.com. We can all track everything through that channel. Or call your local post office. Do not use the link on that text message or email that you get. Always look for it yourself and check that URL. Does this look valid?
Because sometimes they're really, really close, but I think just don't click on what they've sent you. Go on the internet yourself and find that website yourself. Okay. Yes. Next up, we have a personal text message about online banking. For example, your password has been changed, and if this wasn't you, contact us immediately. Now, there's urgency here, which was one of the things to be on guard for. Can we find fraud in this one?
This one could be a valid one. You see there's no link on there, right? So it's not telling you, navigate to this page and click this link and enter this information. And so I think that is a good indicator. But in all cases, I would say go to VyStarCU.org and log in and see what notices you get when you're attempting to log in, or call our phone number that is on our website. I love to tell everybody, just save VyStarCU.org to your favorites on your, or use our mobile app so that you can always make sure you're navigating to the right site. Even if you get that email, even if you get a text, hey, it's in my favorite, so I don't need to click out of here. I'm just going to go to what I have saved in my favorites.
Yeah, and it had that fear too, right? Like, oh, somebody's changed your password, that kind of thing. All right. Did not pass the sniff test. Okay, here's another one. This time it's an email that you get to your company email address, because we've been hearing a lot about these as well, right? They get to you at work and then they infiltrate. So I don't want to give it away, though. I shouldn't have said so much. So it's notifying you that your company vacation policies have changed, and they want you to click on the attachment so you can get in there and you can learn more about it. And of course, if you have any questions, contact your HR department, right? So are we finding fraud in this?
So yes, I think the first sign is saying it's an external email, not from your organization. If HR is emailing you, it should be an internal communication that you're receiving. We have the sense of urgency. There's going to be an issue with your PTO if you don't take action immediately. I think
that's important.
Yeah, that is very, very important. So I think that is another sign. And then third, generally you will have some idea of any PTO changes, right? As you're part of an organization or your employer that are coming. Is this something you've heard of before? If not, maybe call your manager and ask them if you know that email is legitimate. In VyStar, we do a really good job doing phishing testing, and you feel like it's a fun test. Every time you do it, you get so excited when you hit report phishing.
And I pass. I'm
yes, like, yes. And honestly, there's been times where I have reported something that looks suspicious to me, and it didn't end up being anything suspicious. No harm. InfoSec emailed me and said, "Hey, that wasn't a bad email." I would rather that be the case instead of me accidentally clicking something. So just always be vigilant.
It is handy. I use that a lot. We were in our department getting this email that kept saying like, our subscription to like a local newspaper, like we hadn't paid it. It was gonna, and then my colleague was like, we don't even have a subscription to this publication. So I sent it to our phishing folks, and they were like, no, it's good. It's okay. Check the subscription. You might owe money on that. So we followed up with that. So we passed the test. I would rather check it. I would much rather check it. My niece works for a financial institution as well, and she says that they get those quite a bit as well, but they get points if they get it right. So I think we need to work that into the system here. All right. So you are on constant alert. Stephanie, this is your job. This is your main job is to watch for fraud. And you talk to experts all over the world, and you are up on everything, and you've given us some tips, but really, what is the biggest takeaway in terms of, if we want to be our own Stephanies, and we want to have, be our own little agents and our own advocates, other than my mother's great advice, don't give your money to anybody. Right. Why would you give your money to anybody, right? So talk to us a little bit about, as we close, just some action items and things that people can walk away from this conversation, feel like I'm empowered, I know what to do, I'm not going to fall victim to this.
Yes. I think the most important thing is to just be on the lookout. I mean, it's sad that is the world that we live in, but it is impacting consumers across the U.S. And so just be vigilant, take the extra steps. If you're getting that sense of urgency or somebody's trying to instill fear in you, hang up and validate. I think that's really important. And the second component is educate, right? Educate. We have a great fraud page on VyStar where we're sharing what trends we're seeing in the industry, just tactics and information to keep our members educated. But ultimately, the fraud is ever changing, right? So when I first got here, I said, what are we seeing right now? And I know that what I'm seeing right now may not be what we're seeing in 3 months from now or 6 months. And as it changes for me, and I talk to fraud leaders across, all the different organizations, financial institutions in the U.S., we're seeing the similar thing, but they're trends, right? This hits us, and this is what's right now. 3 months later, it's a little bit different. And so educating yourself is just so important, because the only way we can, help ourselves and then also help our members is by constantly educating them on what, ways to protect themselves and what to be on the lookout for. The other thing is I'm really excited to share is we have a new product, a checking product that is going to come with identity theft protection. And that is just so huge. So if you have this product, you will automatically be enrolled in dark web monitoring, identity monitoring, and it also provides some insurance coverage for some of the theft losses. And so those are great ways to be able to protect yourself, lock down your credit reports. I would rather make the call to have to unfreeze my credit than have to go through all the hassles of having to, recover any losses because of fraud.
Can you share a little bit about what is involved in locking your credit? I know I recently purchased a property, and the attorney who was doing all the paperwork said, lock down your credit now, because this is the time that you could be most victimized, because all of these companies that you've worked with to purchase this home have now sold all of your information. So lock it down now. Before we go, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so you can reach out to your credit bureau. So that is, the 3 main bureaus, as well as one that people aren't really aware of, which is your check systems credit bureau. And so that's specific to your deposit relationships. And you can freeze all of those so that when your credit is pulled, you would have to call to unfreeze it for that pull to go through. And that just really protects you from somebody taking over your identity and applying for loans or accounts anywhere that would, financially impact you.
Okay. Well, that's great advice. Stephanie, thanks so much. And we're going to look forward to doing more of these segments with you as you kind of see these things ever evolving, because I think it's a conversation we need to be having all the time.
All the time. I agree. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for joining us for this episode of VyCast. You can find more information about fraud alerts and how to safeguard your money and your data at VyStarCU.org. And please make sure to subscribe to VyCast wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. You can also follow us on Facebook at VyStar CU, Instagram and YouTube at VyStar Credit Union to give us your thoughts on a topic you'd like us to cover. Well, we will talk to you next time.